Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Hard Light Network. Alright, guys, Texas has won a major victory over the legions of gooners and coomers on the internet. On Tuesday, March 14th, users that tried to access the site from anywhere in Texas were greeted with a surprise. Instead of the usual videos of barely legal interracial midgets and advertisements for hot singles in their area, users were greeted with a long message from the company railing against the legal change. Now, the Republican majority state legislature passed an age verification law under House Bill 1181 last year. A law that would require websites hosting and distributing pornographic material to obtain age verification from its users. However, it was last month that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued Pornhub to force compliance with the state's age verification law and threatened millions of dollars in civil penalties. A statement given by Paxton reads as follows: Texas has a right to protect its children from the detrimental effects of pornographic content. I look forward to holding any company accountable that violates our age verification laws intended to prevent minors from being exposed to harmful, obscene material on the internet. And honestly, it seems like a pretty much universal victory for Texas. Apart from the usual suspects, the handful of soy boy coomers and disenfranchised OnlyFans models.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
The news has been received in an overwhelmingly positive light. The craziest thing about it is that it's not a universal ban, it's literally just an age verification restriction, and these holdouts are still raging and screaming in the comments section, not least of which is Pornhub itself. And in response to this completely reasonable restriction, this is what the hub has to say. Quote, "Dear user, as you may know, your elected officials in Texas are requiring us to verify your age before allowing you to access our website. Not only does this impinge on the rights of adults to access protected speech, it fails strict scrutiny by employing the least effective and yet also most restrictive means of accomplishing Texas's stated purpose of allegedly protecting minors. While safety and compliance are at the forefront of our mission, providing identification every time you want to visit an adult platform is not an effective solution for protecting users online, and in fact, will put minors and your privacy at risk. Attempting to mandate age verification without any means to enforce at scale gives platforms the choice to comply or not, leaving thousands of platforms open and accessible. As we've seen in other states, such bills have failed to protect minors by driving users from those few websites which comply to the thousands of websites with far fewer safety measures in place, which do not comply. Very few sites are able to compare to the robust trust and safety measures which we currently have in place. To protect minors and user privacy, any legislation must be enforced against all platforms offering adult content." Groomer moment. That's wild. That's insane how they literally said age verification doesn't protect minors. It's actually worse than that. It actually harms them. So you heard it here first, guys. Requiring age verification on your adult website not only harms adults, but children as well. I mean, you really got to appreciate this Frankenstein argument of, oh, it doesn't actually work, and oh, it doesn't keep anyone safe, and oh, there's no real way to enforce age verification. Okay, sure, when someone's name is a little unconventional on Facebook, they lock the account down and demand identification, but the hub can't do the same thing for accessing literal pornography. It's also pretty crazy how they just flat out assert that you would have to age verify every single time, but really you could just create an account linked to your identity. They also point at other websites and are like, the minors are just gonna go see porn on those sites and not on ours. So it's like Pornhub would rather minors be on their website because their, quote, trust and safety measures are more robust. So not only is Pornhub making the argument that children are less safe when you demand age verification, but it seems that they're implying that children are safer on Pornhub because of their trust and safety features. This situation and the mentality displayed by the hub in their response is also extra wild when you consider that 4 years ago, they removed up to 9 million videos from their platform amid allegations of child trafficking. Like, it's no secret to anyone how exploitative these sites can be, not just towards minors, but also to the adults that are involved in the industry. But when you put up this much of a fight against age verification, it really seals the deal for me that you guys know exactly what you're doing. The part about this that's extra gross to me, though, is all the people who are arguing that people will just find workarounds to this age verification process. You know, using VPNs, false documentation, lying about their age, etc. And to a degree, they're right. It's not a perfect system, and there will inevitably be people who get around the system. But to then argue that we shouldn't make it harder for these kids to access, acting like this is some all or nothing zero-sum game where if we don't stop all of them, then it isn't worth stopping a few of them. I mean, in my opinion, if this stops one kid from ruining their brain chemistry for the rest of their life, then I'm all for it. Because unlike the flat-out lie that Pornhub made in their statement, this doesn't actually affect legal adults from consuming whatever content they want. It doesn't criminalize anything new. All it does is shore up existing laws against minors consuming this exact same sort of content. The Hub is also doing this whole woe is me put on in their statement by pretending like other sites aren't being penalized, as if Texas is just picking on them for no reason. But like I said, you guys have already had scandals involving minors and people being victimized on your site, and there's no language in the bill that singles out the Hub exclusively for this treatment. Every other platform does fall under the same standard, and if Texas has to make an example out of one of the largest distributors of this type of content to send a message, then I'm all for it. I also really don't understand this anti-ID mentality when it comes to consuming adult content online. Have people forgotten that if you want to purchase a magazine or a DVD containing this content, that you have to show your ID to get it? If anything, that proves just how accessible this type of content has become online. So let me get this straight. As an adult man, if I wanted to walk into a strip club, I wouldn't be expected to show my ID. If I go into the bookstore and try to purchase a magazine from the adult section, I'm not going to be carded? Nah, fam, you literally have to show your ID to get into a smoke shop, let alone a sex shop. And bringing children into that environment is unacceptable. So again, I ask, what exactly is the issue with carding people to access that sort of content online? I mean, they don't even outline in their statement how exactly it's supposed to negatively impact adults. They just make the claim that it does. They say that this is allegedly about protecting minors, but then they don't clarify what this is actually about in their opinion. And remember guys, whoever is making this decision at the Hub is the one that decided to deny service to every legal adult willing to verify their age. It was their decision to shut down access to the site for everyone in Texas, not the state government's. This is like a bar shutting down because the law states that you can't serve alcohol to minors. Doesn't it make more economic sense from a business standpoint to just card people at the door rather than shutting down your doors entirely? Me does think thou protest too much, Pornhub. It really is coming across like you're mad about people getting carded and not about children being on your website. You didn't even address that part of it anywhere in your statement. There's no denial of minors accessing the site, and the Attorney General in his statement said that part of the reason why they picked the Hub out specifically is to enforce compliance. Look at this line from their statement. They knew that they were ignoring the law. They said, attempting to mandate age verification without any means of enforcement at scale gives platforms the choice to comply or not. Guys, I hope we all know that this seriously isn't how the law works. Please tell me you know that this isn't how the law works.
Lori Petito.
Why is it important to have sex ed on Pornhub?
Well, it's important to have sex ed everywhere.
Are you concerned that having sex ed on Pornhub might, entice minors to come to the site to have access to sex ed?
Absolutely not. And when it was created, we never advertised it outside of Pornhub.
Was it ever promoted on social media or anywhere else in the news?
No, we don't really promote it.
Pornhub Sex Ed is here. Today we're going to talk about healthy habits,
The proper way to use a condom.
female anatomy,
What is normal and what is not for people with a penis?
What age should sex ed start for kids?
I believe sex ed should start in kindergarten, in the sex education, because like you say the word sex, unfortunately, a lot of people think, oh my God, they're going to teach my children how to have sex.
Well, I think they think of
it's
sex,
such
you
a
know.
bad-
Do you believe, some of these, schools of thought believe that children are inherently sexual? Is that something that you believe starts at a young age, or at what point do you feel like?
Of course, of course.
Do you think pornography that portrays, child simulation, like with women or men dressed as young children or simulating childlike behaviors, drive the pedophilic behavior and tendencies?
No, I don't think so.
A Pornhub representative, I think she has a big account, influencer, but also is a spokesperson at Pornhub, that made a comment about having sex with teenagers.
Would you even do that?
This 13-year-old, I think I
He
would.
could have easily passed for
Like,
15.
okay, he wasn't necessarily like an old-looking 13. You look at him and he's definitely a child. He's just like really, like he had the perfect tan.
A child
and this
doing
beautiful
adult
hair and
that shouldn't be considered statutory rape, and like it's consensual, and
no one would
I don't
consider
think
that
there's-
rape except maybe his mom. And that's
mom.
only if she's like a total.
I think there's not one person that would think that's abuse and would just think how lucky that kid is.
Pretty much.
I mean, and we're talking about Asa and this 13-year-old kid.
Would you feel morally dirty if I went to the other room?
Yeah.
This kid, like, would you
No.
look at me different?
I'd be so.
Okay, not maybe would you look at me different, but like, would you think that I'm doing something wrong?
I
Would you
would be-
feel bad for the
I
kid?
would be so proud of both of you guys.
It'd be fun because you'd go to prison and you really.
We're not talking about the law right now. Hold on, what are you, a like
Snitch?
do-gooder or something?
I'm a snitch.
Are you a snitch? Oh yeah. Would you snitch on us?
It sounds like you would, because
Yeah.
you're so sure we'd go to jail.
Yeah. What do you? We would never go to jail.
I would just hurt you guys.
What are you
What?
talking about? What are you, the protector of 13-year-olds or something?
I think somebody has
What a
to.
nerd.
Is that something that you
Yeah.
support or endorse?
It depends. Again, the age of sexual consent is 16 years old. So let's go with the law. If there's no position of authority over that 16-year-old, then legally they can choose to have sex with anybody they want.
Do you think it's problematic that Pornhub doesn't require age
Please
consent?
I am not speaking for that. I don't know the full story. I only know your version, so I don't want to ask. I don't want to comment.
I don't have a version. It's just a fact. Pornhub doesn't
Well, whatever.
verify
I'm
age or
not-
consent.
I'm not commenting on that.
Are you familiar with the work, of Dr. Alfred Kinsey?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Do you find his work to be instrumental in shaping your views or modern sexuality framework?
Well, I think that he did the biggest, one of the biggest large-scale studies. So, I mean, obviously it opened the door to looking at so many different aspects of sexuality. He was the first really to, especially to look at back then called deviant sexuality or fetishes, or like people really were able to talk about the range of sexuality out there. So certainly he opened that door.
Just because Texas left it up to these websites how they were going to enforce this standard doesn't mean that these websites can ignore the standard. They could have avoided this whole mess by just mandating a site-wide login before accessing any of the content. If you want to view the homepage, you gotta log in. If you want to view a profile, you've gotta log in. If you click an external link, it redirects you to the login screen. I think we all know that this is about profitability, and the owners at the hub just wanted to see how long they could get away with shirking the law before they got in trouble. It seems like they don't want the liability of acknowledging the problem of children accessing the site. The argument has been made that if the hub was to implement some sort of age verification system, that they would be opening themselves up to further lawsuits if the system were to fail. However, YouTube is no stranger to this sort of issue because we've had multiple adpocalypses due to this exact sort of problem. It seems to be an almost seasonal occurrence now that children will get caught up in some sort of inappropriate scandal on the platform, advertisers will threaten to pull out, and YouTube inevitably always caves and implements a stricter system in terms of monetization. But again, we can only go off the hub's statement, and they didn't say anything about that in their response. Their claim was that age verification doesn't actually protect minors, on the contrary, that it harms them. So I would like to see them substantiate that claim before anything else. That's going to do it for this video though, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Did Texas make the right move? Do you think age verification is a reasonable restriction for adult websites? What about this response from the hub themselves? Does it give you the same creepy vibes that it gives me? Either way, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the content we've got prepared for you in the future. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, and until next time, love you guys, safe travels.